What up? What up? What up? What up, Chris? What's good? What's good? What's good? We back. We back. We back.
What's
How you
going
living?
on? Good, man. Ready to get into these edge rushers. What is this? Like the second to last one?
Yeah, this we're gonna do edge rushers, and then we're gonna do some I think DBs, and then we'll have draft season. I mean, not draft season, the actual draft.
Yeah, actual
It's up
draft.
on us. Time kind of got away from us. It got here quick. It got here quick on us. But we're gonna talk. We got 10 edge rushers we're gonna talk about today, and then we're gonna lead you up into the lunch break hot take show at 7:15. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna get it set up, and again, we're gonna give you the RAS score for each of the edge rushers. Chris will tell you what he thinks about them. Then I'll tell you what we think about them, and you guys can kind of put in the chat box what you think about them also. And as he's talking, I'll be scanning the chat box, throwing stuff up and whatnot, and we'll go from there. We won't have any highlights this time, so I can kind of negotiate and talk with you guys in the chat box if I need to, but that's how we're gonna get it started. And again, all this gonna lead up to lunch break hot take at 7:15. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me get a set up right, and then we're gonna go from there. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Make sure we get us in the right spot. We're gonna start with this young fella right here. I guess I gotta share the screen.
Mhm.
We're a little bit late because we had a last minute adjustment we had to add in there, so that's why we doing what we doing. But here we go. Share the screen, entire screen, bam. This ain't gonna take but a hot second to do. And then we in there. Share. There we go. Austin Booker. First guy on our list. And then he went away just that fast.
You starting off with an exciting one.
I know, right? But I was trying to use all three of my screens, so that's what it is. But now I got it up now. Austin Booker, from Kansas, number 9, fairly athletic guy. A lot of the RAS scores we've done, we done 3 or 4 weeks of this, and most of the RAS scores have been in the green. We're finally going to get to some guys that don't have those upper level RAS scores, but that don't necessarily mean they're not good players. His RAS score is 7.05, and again, this is out of 10s from 0 to 10. Hit the highlights of it. He's 6'4". His broad jump is 8.45 out of 10. So those are his good numbers. Bad number is weight, 240. He's a slender guy, kind of built like a wing player. If you play basketball, if you're a basketball connoisseur, he's kind of built like a wing player. So as far as Austin Booker from Kansas, matter of fact, I got some notes on him too as far as the snaps and whatnot. And I almost forgot about that. Let me give you a snap count. 2021 at Minnesota, he was a red shirt. 2022 at Minnesota, played only 23 snaps. And then last year at Kansas, played 482 snaps with 38 tackles, 23 pressures, or it's 37 pressures, because I'm not going to tell you what's on my sheet because the number on my sheet is not right, because nobody had that many pressures. And he had 9 sacks. So what you think about Austin Booker?
Man, Booker, he's an exciting prospect. You said that 240s where he came in at the combine. Good news for him is that at his pro day he weighed in at 253, so that's a lot better. But still, even though he had that 253, you could see his frame. There's still a lot more that he needs to add on to his frame. But as far as the traits that he has, like, he might have the best ghost move in this draft. Like his ability to just duck under and basically play peekaboo with the offensive tackle is really exciting to watch, and just the physical talent that he has right now. And we're going to talk about Chuck Smith a lot in this. And right. Somebody with these kind of physical traits and just the build and the physique, as far as the length that he has, all he has to do is just add on to his frame, and then the sky is the limit for this kid, because I really do think he could turn into a special player, and like one of those guys that we see every year who's mid-round pick and just comes out of nowhere and everybody's like, who's that that dude, where'd he come from? And I think if he just adds more strength, and obviously he's definitely going to need some more games under his belt, because the lack of experience is huge, and you see that with the numbers that you just read out.
Right.
So he definitely needs a little bit more seasoning when it comes to in-game experience. But as far as the traits, like, they are all there, and it's he's an exciting lump of clay right now that a Chuck Smith could, mold into a really fine pass rusher.
And what I got for him is the 2023 Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year, and he was all Big 12. As far as my notes, super quick first step. And that first step with the ghost move you talked about, that's a lot to mold. You just got to get that in between stuff together. Disrupts passing lanes when he can't get to the quarterback. So if he gets to one of those tackles and they actually get hands on him, he does a good job of getting his hands up and just making the quarterback use different angles. So he'll jump for balls, he'll try to bat balls down and do those different things when he can't get to the quarterback. A guy he needs to bulk up. He's more of a pass rush specialist than a run defender at this point, and that's because of his frame. I got speed to turn the corner on tackles and can be on the quarterback before they know it. So I'm saying if he gets that initial first step and the tackle don't set fast enough, he'll be in the quarterback lap before they can even account for him. They may be on read 1 and it's not open. Before they can come to read 2, they're on the ground or being chased. He's just that fast. If the tackle don't get any kind of hands on him. Then I got weakness, his experience as far as snaps, his strength, and he plays high sometimes, and he can be ran at. Meaning they can, if he's on the edge, they can run outside zone at him or run power at him because of he just don't have enough bricks in his pocket at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as him in a pass rush situation, he can get after it.
And I love
really
that.
Get after it.
I love what you said, designated pass rusher to start off in his career and then, slowly bring him on and develop him and round out his game. But that early on as a pass rusher, I love that plan for him.
Yeah, and that's Austin Booker from Kansas. Again, you see his Raz on the board. Only has 9 sacks, and he got all of that this year. So really, this is 1 year of production from this young man. Redshirted at Minnesota in 2021. Only played 23 snaps in 2022 at Minnesota. Played 482 snaps this year at Kansas. But he was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year, and he was all Big 12. And when you look at his tape, you see an extremely athletic individual that moves a lot faster than the rest of the people in the box. But if a tackle gets hands on him, he kind of he just needs more bricks in his pocket. That's what he ain't got enough bricks in his pocket yet. But he finds ways to get out of it sometimes. So being ran at ain't completely a bad thing. He just gotta, as bots say, he gotta get in his grown man body.
Yep.
All right, player number 2, Bralen Trice. Let me close this out. Bralen Trice is there we go. Bralen Trice from the University of Washington. So let's talk about as far as his snaps. 2021, 194 snaps, 2022, 611, and then last year, and because they had so many extra games, 925. Last year he had 33 tackles, 80 pressures, and 8 sacks. And then 2022 he had 9 sacks. So as a career at Washington, he has 16, 17, 18, 19 total sacks. Bralen Trice, and you look at his RAS score again in the sevens. His weight 245, and he lost weight for the combine to try to run fast. His combine experience was not very good. Didn't take direction very well. He did bad in some of the drills. Ran okay, but the rest of it to me wasn't very good. And I thought he would slide down the draft board because of it. But then when you look at his tape should outweigh his combine situation. But what you think about Bralen Trice, Chris?
Yeah, just hopping on to that combine stuff. I don't know who was in his ear telling him to lose all of that weight, but that was completely unnecessary because you watch the tape and you're like, oh, this dude 270.
Mm-hmm.
And to come to the combine and be in the 240s is like, this ain't the same dude,
Right.
And that's not his game. If you're drafting Bralen Trice, you're not drafting him because you think he's a super bendy, fast, off the edge kind of guy. You are drafting him because of his power and the violence that he has in his hands. And that's that's his trump card right there is the power in his hands.
Mm-hmm.
He has some quickness in short areas, short areas to kind of get blockers off balance. But his game is straight power and relentlessness. And, he's a guy that, you can easily see become a contributor right away. I don't think he's ever going to be, a 10 sack guy or anything like that. But I think he's going to be one of those rotational guys who, he can really be a catalyst as far as your defensive line, as as one of those glue guys that is like, all right, that's the cherry on top. Like you have your main guy, but this is a dude who could turn up and, you know, rush inside, rush on the outside, and provide you with some, you know, much needed physicality in the run game and also passing downs.
True. And to kind of talk about what you talk about the weight wise, I got his weight from PFF on my little note sheet. It says 274. This Raz comes from the combine, 245. That's 30 pounds.
That's crazy.
He lost 30 pounds just to try to run fast at the combine. That's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. Now he has a decent, you know, combine time because it's green, 4.7. 20-yard splits green also, and his agility is green, but it was necessary. The notes I got for him: effort. I got great bend at the point of attack. I said he had a rough combine, but his tape says opposite. And then this last note I got is what's gonna make him some money. He has a duffel bag full of pass rush moves. Like he got moves on top of moves. He got speed to power. He can bend at the top of the route. I mean, at the top of the pass rush move. He can dip. He got a spin move. He got a half spin. He got a bunch of pass rush moves that were on display at Washington. And he reminds me of somebody else. And I don't do a lot of player comps, but watching his tape, and if I'm not mistaken, this dude came from Washington also. Joe Tryon Sharinka, whatever his name.
From the Bucks.
Play with the Bucks. That's who he reminded me of. And I think Joe Tryon came from Washington. I think chat box, help me out. Tell me where Joe played college at. I think he played somewhere on the West Coast, but he reminded me a lot of that dude in this pass rush game. But the difference is Bralen can play the run too. So I hopefully he gained that weight back and can play it in the 270s with you know, whatever team decides to pick him up. And you know, with us, if we decide to pick him up, I think he'll be one of those guys that can play the edge, he can be a 3 down outside linebacker edge guy, and has the ability, the agility to drop if need be. You know how we deal with Bowser sometimes, and we do those different little blitz combinations or whatever. He can drop and cover the flats. You know, he has the athletic ability to do that. But put the weight back on, man.
Yeah,
definitely. Put the weight back on.
That weight back on. You ain't gonna be a model.
We got one of them already. Play receiver. What number 7, whatever number. All right. Next up, Brandon Dorlus. We get Brandon's stuff up here from Oregon. All right, the numbers on Brandon Dorlus. Ooh, this is a long one. 2019, 81 snaps. 2020, 259. 2021, 665. 2022, 651. Then last year, 587. I just give you his total sacks for all, 5 years? 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 sacks. Now, a lot of pressures. They had 46 pressures last year and the year before that. 42 pressures his third year. And played a lot that last year before last, and I don't want to say junior senior because he's got so many years up there. But he's a little different from any of these other guys we talked about. And I want to see if you're going to say the difference, what I saw in Brandon. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, he's more of a defensive tackle.
Yes.
Yes. You know, he mostly rushed on the inside. That's not to say that he can't rush on the outside, but primarily what you want him to do is be that inside guy, interior disruptor, and really have those advantages over guards, because, you know, he tested well, but, you know, he doesn't have the burst. He doesn't have the bend to really threaten offensive tackles on the outside. So I think with him, his home is definitely on the inside for the majority of his snaps.
Yeah, I think he can play 5, but I think he's a 3 tech.
Yeah.
He can play 5, but I think his natural position is a 3 tech.
Yeah, and not only, you know, does his play style, you know, match with that, because he's another guy, you know, just on maybe not as explosive as Bralen, well, definitely not as explosive as Bralen Trice, but he's a guy who relies on that physicality, that power in the run game, in the pass game. So I just, to me, he's a guy that's on the inside, and I wouldn't necessarily lump him up with the edge prospects in this.
Right. And he in all the publications that I've seen, he's lumped in with the edge. But when I turned on his film, I was like, he probably shouldn't have been with this group.
Mm-hmm.
But since we had already, put our stuff together, I went on ahead and did it anyway. But the notes I got for him is he's more of a 3 technique than an edge, but can play edge. So he has position flexibility, which is key in multiple defenses. So that means, different defensive schemes, he can kind of go and play there. Plays with his hands extremely well. He's strong and has quick hands. He has that shock factor with his lower body, and he can knock defenders back, which helps him, do what he does between the guards. He's a block destructor, meaning he takes guards and resets the line of scrimmage. But he also, when in pass rush situations, he has the quick hands to get rid of guards and get pressure too. And it's like, and I saw him first versus Colorado, and again, anytime I saw people versus Colorado, I charged it like Colorado. They line up. But then I saw him do it versus other teams. I'm like, okay, he legit. And he was a big part of Oregon's success defensively too. The last note I got for him is he needs to work on his moves. He doesn't have a bag full of pass rush moves. But now that I think about it and say that when reading his notes, if he's gonna be an interior pass rush, he ain't got to have this huge bag. It's gonna be power. It's gonna be push the pocket from the inside. If he was an edge guy, he would need a full bag. But the more he can get, the more he can do, the more he get paid in the NFL. So I say he don't need a full bag, but if he can get a full bag, it's gonna be better for his pockets.
Yeah, and then as you can see with that green right there, he's gonna have the athletic advantage over pretty much every guard. So yes. you couple in that athleticism, and then also the power that he has, and you can have something special with him on the inside.
All right, because look at that broad jump too. That explosiveness right there.
Yep.
Like he was, not only was he quicker than the guards, he was just as strong, or if not stronger than them also.
Mm-hmm.
Which is rare that you get that. Because most guards are squatty bodies, and they power lifters. They extremely thick in the lower extremities, and he was moving them, like they wasn't nothing. Like they wasn't nothing. And it helps that he went probably against one of the best interior linemen every day in practice too, in JPJ.
I thought you were gonna say solid.
You trying to get us off track. You trying to get us off track. But that's Brandon Dorlus from Oregon Ducks, 6'3", 290-pound defensive end / 3 tech. But and then his RAS score, I think this is the best RAS score we didn't saw today. 8.58. Let me see. Height 6'3", weight 283, and he's been the heaviest so far too. His explosive grade is good. His speed was good. Ran a 4.85 at
283.
At 283. So he didn't need to lose all that weight to still run that good, unlike Bralen. So, and like I said, I like his position flexibility.
And he got it. I know we're talking about this year, but he got a teammate named Jordan Birch, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be talking about him next year.
He was an edge, or he was a D tackle too.
He was edge, and then kicked in a little bit on the inside, but primarily edge.
Okay, check him out. All right, this guy right here. This is a hot topic for a lot of people right here. Oh, Poke Chop Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get my notes up on Robinson. All right. So what I didn't know initially is that he started at Maryland. Started at Maryland his first year, played 263 snaps, had three sacks, then transferred to Penn State 2022, 455 snaps, 16 tackles, 48 pressures, 5 sacks. And then last year, 303 snaps, 10 tackles, 26 pressures, and 2 sacks. As far as his RAS, 9.53, 40 time, 4.49, 20-yard split, 2.6, 10-yard split, 1.5. All are great. You see that right there. Speed, elite. Size, 6'2" in the red. Weight, 254 in the red. It's not good, as far as RAS says, as far as his size for a defensive end. But then his explosion grade is great too. Vert 34.5, and then broad jump 10 feet. A lot of mixed feelings about Chop Robinson. I think he reminds a lot of people of Owe, but he also is a fan favorite because he's from the area. What does the film tell you about Chop Robinson, Chris?
To me, I didn't really see the Owe comps. I just think there's more flexibility with Chop. You know,
Okay.
and I think his burst off the edge, I think is better than always was. I think just as an athlete, I think he's a better on-field athlete than Owe was. I think Owe was a little bit stiffer and he wasn't as explosive. Even though he tested like, you know, a maniac. But Chop, you know, he has the physical traits that, like, you know, we spoke about it with Austin Booker earlier, and you know, Chop's physical ability, just the athleticism that he has, it's even more exciting than Booker's. The difference is you're talking about Booker, who could be a third, fourth, fifth, maybe fifth rounder, and Chop is being spoken about in the first round.
Right.
You know, obviously those tools that you can't teach are there, but then you have the other side of it where you can see he has active hands, but it's just no real consistent power behind them. And when you're in the NFL, if all you have is speed, you know, that's great, that's nice, but you know, grown men, you know, guys like Orlando Brown Jr., they're gonna be able to neutralize that because they're just gonna wait for you to come to them. You know, they got the length, they got the mass, and you have to be able to convert that speed to power. And right now, Chop just doesn't have that. And you know, he has a good weight to him, but that frame is still small.
Yep.
You know, that frame is not conducive with being able to consistently threaten offensive tackles in the NFL right now.
What I got for him is fast and explosive, which that is undeniable. He's extremely fast. He's extremely explosive off the edge. So what I did was I wanted to see what you do. Anytime I see guys from Penn State, I immediately go to the Michigan game and the Ohio State, because that's the kind of competition you're going to see. You know, because I don't care if they win them games, because Michigan and Ohio State probably going to have better teams than them always. But I want to see what you do individually both versus those teams. I saw two good speed rushes in those two games. Both of them was against Michigan, but he just got off the ball before the tackle could even look. Right. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I mean, he's a high motor guy, but I got a question on my paper that says, but what's the plan?
Right.
What's your pass rush plan? You just gonna outrun everybody?
Yeah, that's not gonna work in the NFL.
Exactly. That's not gonna work in the NFL. So he's an extremely, extremely, extremely good athlete. I don't see a plan of action. I don't see like, okay, I'm gonna speed rush. I'm gonna speed rush, and when they start oversetting, I'm gonna come back inside, or I'm gonna spin back inside, or I'm gonna dip inside to trying to start. And when they start oversetting inside, I got this. I can hit them with the speed rush. It's like everything speed rush. And I didn't see very many games. I didn't see Penn State play very many games with him. And I'm blaming that on coaching. That's not his fault. But I just didn't see a plan other than I'm quicker than you and beat you off the ball. Yeah. And that, you know, and he may have more in his bag. It just wasn't showing on tape. Yeah, I said I got all that natural ability, and the tape looks mediocre versus Michigan, Ohio State, which is the type of talent he'll be playing against next year. I just don't see it.
Yep, and you know, like I said to start it off, you know, I like him, but first round it's a little iffy for me because, you know, like Coach said, you know, those athletic traits are tantalizing, and you know, Penn State did a good job of moving him around too. You know, there's times where he's able to rush on the inside, and you know, he is a disruptor. Like you have to, like, you could tell that offensive coordinators, they were trying to make sure that he did not wreck any of their plans, because they were giving him attention, and you know, he's a guy that once he gets hot, he's like a 3-point shooter. You know, once they see that ball go in the hoop once, that's all they need. And he's the same kind of way. Like once he gets hot, he kind of gets rolling a little bit, and you know, it might not show up in the stat sheet, but you watch the tape and you know, there's a lot of disruption in there. But you know, again, Do the Ravens want to bet on that at pick 30? I don't think so.
Right. And my thing is with him, I think he's a situational pass rusher to start with, like some other guys we talked about. Like he can come in and rush the passer, but with that frame, I don't trust him versus the run yet. Not saying he won't get there. Not saying he won't get there. But I think he's a situational passer, and I don't think you pick situational pass rushers. I'm sorry, situational pass rushers in the first round, unless they like just ungodly numbers. Like they just can disrupt the game almost with every pass rush, and they got like ungodly numbers, which is some people we're gonna talk about lately like that. So, but the people we're gonna talk about later got a plan. He just I don't see the plan in him yet. Now, would I like him on the team second round? Yes, but I don't think he'll be there in the second round. Like because we pick what 62? He'll never get 62.
62.
He'll never get 62 because now he's an amazing athlete. But we need somebody that's going to be impactful right now at 30. And we got 6 guys right there in that position right now. I don't think he would jump over picking him. I don't think he would jump Owe, Ojabo, Cal Van Noy. None of those guys right now. I personally don't. Do you?
I would have
maybe Ojabo. I said
yeah.
Ojabo. Maybe Ojabo. My bad. I was a slip of the tongue. Sorry.
That's what I was going to say. Ojabo, just because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But even if he is healthy, would Chop be over him? I can't say for sure, because when Ojabo has been on the field, he's actually done well in real games.
Yeah. All right. Next up on our docket, Chris Braswell from Alabama. Roll Tide.
A lot of people don't know he was named after me.
What did dude say? Don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide. All right, so Chris Braswell in 2021, he had 14 snaps, 1 sack. 2022, 330 snaps with 4 sacks. And then last year, 569 snaps, 22 tackles, 56 pressures, and 13 sacks. As far as his RAS, 8.62. Elite for him is his speed, 4.6. 20-yard split, 2.67, 10-yard split, 1.5, which is always good. His height, 6'3". The guy, it's if he got a yellow on that, but his weight is 251, which is red. But when they get their grown man body, that weight would definitely change, and his explosion is yellow too, according to Raz. What you got for Chris Braswell from the University of Alabama, Chris?
I really liked him. I thought he kind of reminded me of a better Tyus Bowser at this point. Bowser was a super athlete coming out, and Alabama, they asked Braswell to do a lot. They asked him to drop in coverage, they asked him to rush, they asked him to set the edge, and I was a big fan of his game. He has what we spoke about with Booker and Chop. This dude can convert speed to power consistently. And I love that. The plan isn't there yet, but the physical ability to be able to threaten on the edge, but also be able to, just run a damn offensive tackle right off the ball is there with Braswell.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see with it when we're talking about complete, package edge defenders. And I think he might be one of the most complete guys in this draft. Just when you look at the physical tools, the power that he has, he just has to develop more of that plan in order to set defenders up. And I don't think he really looked as explosive as his testing numbers were. But I wonder if that's because the lack of playing time, because when you're at Alabama,
you rotate.
You're not going to be able to just go off and rush the passer willy-nilly and like you will in some other places. You behind Dallas Turner, you behind Will Anderson. So him not being as developed as, let's say, a guy like Latu, know, who has a whole bunch of snaps and has been able to, you know, be able to you know, be an edge rusher,
right, and
edge
refine his
rusher.
moves.
Yeah. So I think with more of those kind of snaps, I think Chris Braswell, he might be able to be one of the most complete guys when it's all said and done from this draft class.
And again, I got to say this: we don't talk about these before we hit the live button, like these comparisons. My stuff for Chris Braswell is typical Alabama defensive end, well coached, tough, physical versus the run, sets the edge well. Then he's a well-rounded pass rush package to go with it. There is no one thing that jumps out, but he does a lot of stuff very well. Like he's not exceptional at nothing really, but he's very good at a lot of things. And I got in bold letters for my last note, a very solid football player, a 3-down defensive end. Like he can play the run, he can pass rush. He ain't got this, he don't have this explosive, like this great first step or this great spin move or this great pull through, but he's just solid, man. You can trust him to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there doing what he's supposed to do. And that's what Bama edges do. And then occasionally you'll get a Will Anderson to come through that can do those things and be exceptional at some other stuff. And that's the kind of football player, you know, if we didn't have, you know, a room full of guys and 9 holes on the offensive line, I can see Chris Braswell being the pick. I can see, because Chris Braswell, like, I think I read somewhere where the scouts get an opportunity to put a red dot on a player that plays like a Raven.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to put my red dot on Chris Braswell.
Yeah, he fits their type. You know, their type, the lineage as far as the Alabama connection, just the play style. Like I said, he reminded me of Tyus Bowser a lot. And, you know, you can make those connections easily. It's just, what are you willing to sacrifice as far as need in order to bring him in?
Right. All right, that's Chris Braswell. Good dude right there. I enjoyed watching his tape. Yeah. And he got a pick 6. Got a pick 6 in there. Let's see. Next up. Darius Robinson, a guy that's been mocked to the Ravens a bunch of times early in the mock draft season. Not so much lately, but solid dude. Darius Robinson, defensive tackle, but he's listed as an edge in damn near every publication. Where is his size? 6'5", 285. For that size, he ran a 4.95. 10-yard split was good at 173. Bench 21 bench, which is red. That's, you know, for defensive end, that's not very many. His explosive grade was good. Had 35-inch vertical, broad jump. 9 feet, and then his agility was bad. But I could tell you from watching tape, his agility was probably gonna be bad because it's tough for him to change directions. But that don't necessarily mean he's a bad football player. It's just tough for him to go real quick. But he's a defensive player. You know, we tend to do that to defensive players. I say we because I played offense. But his RAD score was 7.72 out of 10. As far as his snaps, he's a 5-year player. 2019 at Missouri, he played 43 snaps with no sacks. 2020, 189 snaps with 1 sack. 2021, 294, 1 sack. 2022, 468 with 3 sacks. And then last year, 515 snaps with 9 sacks. He had 22 tackles last year, also with 42 pressures. Darius Robinson, the Missouri Tigers, 6'5", 296 defensive end. Did he lose weight to combine? Yeah, he lost about 10 pounds for the combine also.
Yeah, this is one of my personal favorites. I love Darius Robinson. You know, if you got it in your head, like the kind of edge rusher that's going to be bendy and, you know, play with that finesse, this is not your guy. You know, this is a dude. He actually played defensive tackle last year, and this was his first year playing on the edge. And, you know, he came on like gangbusters this season. You know, the captain of the team. We know the Ravens love that. But this dude, to me, he's that Pernell McPhee type. You know, he's not going to be, doing the ghost move like we were talking about with Booker or anything like that. He's going to go straight through whoever is in front of him. Right. Doesn't matter who. He's going straight through. And he plays with that bull in a china shop kind of style. And, that's great. And, I kind of have to check myself because I fall in love with these kind of players. So although he does that very well, he plays with great violence. He plays with a relentless motor. He also needs to develop a plan too, because those are grown men you're going up against. This is not, you're not going up against an Auburn offensive tackle when you're in the NFL. You're going up against the best of the best. And just being strong and being relentless, like, yeah, it'll get you a couple sacks, but if you really want to take that next step and be one of the premier defenders in the league, you got to have a plan. And right now he doesn't have that plan. He's just relying solely on power and relentlessness. But just as far as that package, the motor, just the intangibles that he has, because when you listen to guys talk about him, you listen to other coaches talk about him, they just have rave reviews about him. And I love though when you get a peek at the intangibles and the kind of person that he is.
Right. What I have for him is he has the strength and size to play all three downs. And you can tell, with his frame, 6'5", almost 300 pounds, played interior and, on the edge. So that's going to help him, with that flexibility to play all three downs. He's okay at setting the edge and keeping that outside shoulder free. And I could tell it was kind of new to him because he kind of over exaggerates keeping that outside arm free when people try to run at it. And then he does a good job of shedding tackles. The better tackles kind of, I ain't gonna say whooped him, but they were able to control him a little bit. But tackles that didn't match him in strength, he dominated them. Mm-hmm. He just get rid of them and basically step on them and make tackles when they tried to run at him. He has a couple of pass rush moves in his bag, but once I realized that he was a defensive tackle, I understood some of his pass rush moves because they're set up to be power moves. Like they would dominate guards. They don't necessarily work on, tackles who are better at defending some of those moves. But once he, gets with a guy and develops moves better, he'll be better at it, So I can see the potential there from Robinson. And the only negative I had in it, he's kind of robotic. But the agility grade kind of tells me that. The agility grade in the film kind of tells me he's kind of robotic as far as just chasing guys down and trying to change directions. But what he does from snap to 2 seconds can negate that robotic play. The only thing he's robotic in is maybe chasing people down from the other side, but that ain't necessarily really his job. If he can reset the line of scrimmage and keep his outside arm free, those robotic movements don't really matter. It don't really matter. All that matters is if he gets in a one-on-one situation with like a running back, the running back probably gonna juke him. That's where that kind of comes in to play at. And you can get more flexible, but you really either got it or you don't there. And that don't mean you can't be a good football player. So me putting robotic on that's not saying he sucks. That's just I noticed that he ain't as fluent in his hips and his change of direction, stuff like that. But I like him. I just, I know like early in the draft season, a lot of people mocked him to us, but lately it hadn't really happened. I guess because of the O-line situation. But I'm cool with Robinson. I don't know if 30's the number, but if we get him out, I think Chuck would love to have that nice ball of clay right there.
Yes, sir.
All right, next up, one of my personal favorites, Javon Solomon. Let's get Javon's stuff up here. Javon Solomon. All right. So I know he's been at Troy all the time, but PFF didn't have the snaps on it. So his last year's snaps was 592, and he led the college football with 18 sacks this year. His RAS score was 721. Size was, it got red in size. He's 6 foot. It says 6 foot, 246. Bench press 23, which was okay. His vert was 37, which was good. His broad was 911, which was good. 40-yard dash 472 was good, and everything else was mediocre. led the NCAA with 18 sacks. And what did you see in left film that you could get out of Javon Solomon?
Well, first you got to start off with the build. You know, that's a unique build for an edge rusher. You know, almost 6'1", 246, but his he got the long arms. He kind of built like that Pokemon that's just a rock, and he got the long arms. That's what he looks like. But you know, this dude plays with his hair on fire. You know, you can watch it, and you can see Troy really move him around to free him up. You know, there's times where you see this dude, you know, little dude, you know, lining up at 3-tech, and you're like, what the hell? But it's working. Yep. You know, he uses his hands and his physicality and his quickness to just get instantaneous pressure. And, you know, he has the production. You know, all you got to do is, for the stat nerds out there, 32 sacks over his career, you know, at that size. And, you know, you could say, oh, the level of competition, but, you know, when you look at the physical traits and the way that he's able to just play with that relentlessness, I love it. And I'm partial to edge rushers who are shorter, you know, like dudes like, you know, obviously James Harrison is the one, but then there are other dudes like, you know, Ewan Price from a couple years ago at a Pitt, who was another small guy, kind of the same build, but those guys have that natural leverage. And I wish the NFL would go kind of like the way that is going with quarterbacks, where you see those smaller, like you see quarterbacks now, like the smaller guys, you don't really hear that talking that much anymore.
Right.
And I wish it could kind of go that way with smaller edge rushers, because they always get picked in like the 6th round, 5th round, later round picks, and they don't really get a shot. And I think a guy like Javon Solomon, you know, I think he's a dude who he can be productive in the NFL. Not going to be a 10-sack guy, I don't believe, but I think he's a dude that could definitely contribute and be a rotational piece, especially on passing downs.
Right. Now, I threw him up here because this is a homer pick for me. I actually work at the school Javon attended. Now I didn't coach Javon. Javon's senior year was the year I came to the school. I coached against him. So yes, he gave me problems for 3 years. I coached at the actual rivals here. The school I worked at, I coached at the rival school across town. So he gave me nightmares for 3 years. Luckily, his junior year, we beat them on a Hail Mary, an actual Hail Mary, last play of the game. And then, you know, there was issues and people said we didn't catch the ball or whatnot. So they all vowed to blow us out the next year, because they had probably about 18 guys that signed D1 scholarships on that team. And they kicked our ass the next year. And so but I threw Javon up here because of that. But yeah, he led the and actually Jeff Zarebrick actually mocked Javon to us on the Athletic. That he said he had to do a mock draft, and he actually mocked Javon to us, and I think like the 4th round or whatever. But I had 18 sacks in 2023. He was used as a 4-eye defensive end, but I think his best position, if he stand up as a defensive end or outside linebacker. Surprisingly strong for his size. You'll see him toss tackles from time to time during games. Plays well with his hands, consistently working on moves. Even if the first move doesn't work, you'll see a 2nd and 3rd move ready to fire off. A powerful lower body to help explode through blocks. He's tough to reach unless the offensive tackle is extremely gifted because of that speed. Like if he realizes that you're trying to reach block him, he get on the outside real quick and make you turn it back in. He's not ideal size for an edge, and I got longer arm tackles will give him problems. But he has a high motor. He's always running plays down, and he's a typical like an underachiever, undersized guy that play with that chip on his shoulder. That's gonna prove to you that he belongs. And I like even when in high school, like with all that talent they had, my game plan was to find this son gun and make sure we accounted for him. And that didn't change when he went to Troy. He all his years was at Troy, and he turned out to be a hell of a player, man. Hell of a player. And I ain't just saying that because I know him. And this is the homer person I want to talk about. I mean, 18 sacks. It's a lot, man. 32 in 3 years. Production numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. He up there with who went to Troy? It was not DeMarcus Lawrence. What was the Cowboy that went to Troy?
I know what you're talking about.
Shoot, one of the Cowboy
Milk
greats
Dud
went to
Head.
Troy.
Milk Dud Head.
I can't
That
think
went
his
to
name.
Denver.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it was DeMarcus Lawrence. It might have been DeMarcus Lawrence. One of them Cowboy defensive ends went to Troy, and he's up there with him as far as sacks. But that's Javon Solomon. All right. Next up.
There you go. DeMarcus Ware. Thank you.
DeMarcus Ware. Appreciate it, Jeremiah. Appreciate it. That's exactly what it is. DeMarcus Ware. Did DeMarcus Ware just sing like the national anthem at the Pro Bowl or something?
Something like that, yeah. Fake ass seal.
Right. All right. This is why we was late, trying to get the Raz for Jonah Ellis. Jonah Ellis is next. Let me get my notes for Jonah. All right. Jonah Ellis, Utah Utes, 2021, 118 snaps, 2 sacks, 2022, 394 snaps, 4 sacks, and then 2023, 573 sacks, 573 snaps, 13 sacks with 39 pressures. And we just got the Raz like right before we went on green. So 8.58, no 40 time, shuttle, and 3 cone was good, which I figured that would have been good because you can look at the tape and tell it's good because he's kind of built like a tight end or a power forward, not necessarily like a defensive end. Size 6'2", 248. Again, it's red because you can tell the way he moves. He's real fast, and his vert is green and his broad is green. But as far as looking at tape, what did you see from Jonah Ellis from the Utah Utes? So
he was a guy. I don't want to say I hated him, but I wasn't the biggest fan of his game. Like several of the guys that we've spoken about. He has some really nice athletic traits, and he comes from a football family. His dad was an NFL player. I think one of his brothers played college ball too. And you can see that in his game. You can see that he has some skills as far as his hand fighting and stuff like that. But just for me, the lack of power, that's something that, is going to come up. And maybe that's a bias of mine.
You're being nice when you say lack of power.
That's like, to me, that's something that that has to be in your repertoire. We spoke about it with Braswell. And, you can have all of the moves, the flashiness, the inside spin moves and all of that. If you don't have the power, it's not going to work in the NFL. Like, yeah, you get your occasional sack, but to be able to threaten offensive tackles in the NFL, you need some power. And I didn't really see that with him. And I walked away not really being a huge fan of his, although that's not to say that he won't be good, but you know who he reminded me of? He reminded me a lot of Paul Kruger, because he even does that little hop chop that Paul Kruger used to do. That's his go-to, that hop chop that he does.
And if he don't get it, he normally ends on his back.
That's it. And why couldn't Paul Kruger see the field early on in his career? Because he lacked that power, and he was more of that finesse rusher. And once he kind of added on to his frame and got stronger, he was able to get some of that success. But he reminded me of Paul Kruger as far as that finesse rush style.
I'm almost certain he'll be a 3-4 outside linebacker and on every special team. I got a high motor guy with a very quick first step. He's able to bend and get extremely low to generate pressure on opponents. So that's why I think he can excel if given the right opportunity. If he hits the opportunity to go against one of those taller guards, 6'7", 6'8", he can get so low on the edge that they can't really bend down to get hands on him. But that's one of the few pluses for him that I got. Against the run, he does a solid job of maintaining outside leverage, but he don't stop. He don't set the edge. Like he'll get it to where it can be turned back, but he ain't setting no edge. Like he'll push it to the sideline and make you stick your foot in the ground and get north and south, but he ain't just setting the edge and allowing the defense to collapse on it. I got Ellis offers a solid array of pass rush moves to effectively beat offensive tackles, but if they get their hands on them, it's a wrap. Hand usage and placement punch to get off blockers, but once they get their hands on them, it's a wrap. And I typed that up twice. Huge downside is his slender frame, and then can be engulfed by size when trying to set the edge. He really just don't have enough bricks in his pocket. And honestly, a lot of times I say he has the frame to put it on. I don't necessarily realize think he got the frame to put it on. I think he almost maxed out.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe on the lower half, but I don't know, man. I mean, you would think that he's working with some of the best because your dad was in the NFL. You go to Utah, that's a good program. It's not Alabama, but it's a damn good program. And to have that lack of size and that lack of mass, maybe he's just a late bloomer, but we shall see.
Right. So, and that's Jonah Ellis. And again, I personally picked some of the guys that were not big names, so we can talk about some guys that were not everybody else was talking about. So that's why guys like Jonah Ellis is on here. So we didn't just have the same 10 guys that everybody in America talking about. So that's kind of why you see like a guy like Jonah Ellis on here, just in case you were wondering. But we're definitely gonna talk about this guy. What are you gonna leave him off?
I never heard of this dude.
What was not gonna leave him off? Is not gonna leave him off. Laiatu Latu, defensive end from UCLA. Played in 2019 in Washington. Had 215 snaps, 2 sacks. Had hurt his neck or something then and was out of football for a while. It was his neck.
Mm-hmm.
Came back in 2022 at UCLA with 494 snaps and 12 sacks. Last year, 535 snaps, 26 total tackles, 62 pressures, 15 sacks, and bruh. You see his RAS at 933. Height 6'4", weight 259, where they got a red mark by that. But it's 46'4", 10-yard split 270. I'm sorry, 20-yard split 270, 10-yard split 162. His shuttle and agility was good. His combine was excellent. This dude right here, man. Like if go watch the tape of him versus UCLA. Don't forget Colorado because we already know about their O-line.
USC.
Watch the tape versus USC. I mean, yeah, USC. Him chasing Caleb Williams down playing tag. That's what it was. But as far as what you see out of Latu, or what you think about Latu?
Man, this dude, he came out of the womb with a plan. You've heard us talk about players who don't have a plan. This dude has a plan all the time, and there are some guys who are robotic with their hand movements, and it's like you could tell like this was coached to them.
Mm-hmm.
With Latu, it's just natural. Like it's like wax on, wax off kind of karate skills where it almost looks fake. Like it looks like it's choreographed. Like the offensive tackle is like, all right, I'm gonna throw them here, and you just hit them to the side because that's how smooth he is when it comes to his hand fighting, and that is an elite level for him right now. There are NFL edge defenders who they don't have the kind of hand uses that he has coming out as a prospect, and a lot of the pundits and all of that stuff were saying he's not a great athlete and he's going to test poorly, and he tested well. He doesn't have that that get off that is like wow, it blows you away, but he's still a good athlete, and not even forget athleticism right now. Let's talk about smarts.
Right.
Like this dude's instinct and feel for the game is incredible. Not just rushing the passer, but also when he's dropping back and defending. Like he's just incredibly smart. And you have to put a premium on guys who are not only physically gifted, technically gifted, but also have those rare instincts to make plays and put themselves in position to be successful, because I think you see that a lot on his tape where he's in a spot where his coach might have not told him to be, but his instincts put him in that position. And he's definitely a fun player to watch, and people who are watching this, they might think, oh, why are they talking about Latu? There's a chance he could fall to 30. Because what he had was, that wasn't just some, like a torn ACL 2 years ago. That the neck injury, that could go any way. I mean, we saw DK Metcalf dropped to the second or third round.
Right, second.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but it's certainly not off the table when it comes to those medical grades.
Where did the kid? He started at UCLA.
I know you talk about Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, where did he end up going?
He ended up at Miami.
Yeah, he ended up Miami. Saying like as far as draft, where did he end up going? Because he had ended up with a great year. Him and Rousseau.
I think like 15th.
Okay.
I think the Dolphins got him like around 15 or somewhere like that.
Okay.
But it's similar thing where he had to retire, and then come back and get medically cleared again. Latu went through the same thing. He had to retire. He was actually with Washington, and he had to retire, and then he ended up coming back to UCLA and linked up with one of his defensive coaches at UCLA.
A gift from the heavens for whoever that coach was, because he turned out to be the guy. I did a video on Latu, and man, it's like you said, he the way he moves in and out of stuff is effortless. Like if he comes out and speed rush and you guess right and you overcompensate for that, he'll be spent inside before you can even set that post foot to speed rush.
Right.
Or if you guess right on whatever move you think he's gonna give you, his counters are so well timed and placed that it's almost like he know what you're thinking. And I knew he was a decent pass rusher before I watched the film. Watching the film let me know he's an excellent pass rusher, but what I didn't know is how well he used his hands versus the run. Now he ain't this certified straight run stopper, but he uses his frame to slide between blockers and get off blocks and to make plays in the backfield. You think that, okay, he's just an edge, this a pass rush guy. He's just put him in on third down. No, this dude can play the run too.
Mm-hmm.
He can play the run too. He probably ain't gonna make no explosive plays and blow people off the ball, but he can hold a point. And then when the runner comes, he can stack and shed and make the tackle. So that part of the game that I didn't know about, it just enhanced his play for me. And I already thought he was the best pass rusher in the draft. That solidified for me as him being the best edge. And I rave about him and his tape. And if you haven't watched film on him, not only from my channel, his highlights, his full games, whatever, this dude's the real deal, man.
Mm-hmm.
He is the real deal, Holyfield. And I ain't very much negative you're gonna hear from me about Laiatu Latu. And if he's a bust in NFL, I won't be the one to call it. I wouldn't see it'll hit me like a ton of bricks. I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see it. I can get to our last guy today, Marshawn Kneeland, who was extremely interesting. Western Michigan guy, 166 snaps in 2020 with 4 sacks, 414 snaps in 2021 with 4 sacks, 2022 465 with 2 sacks, and then 557 snaps this year with 6 sacks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I read somewhere where he played. Did he play with Fisk from Florida State?
Yeah, last year, him and Fisk were on the same D line.
Okay, so he played with Fisk last year, so he had some help with him last year when he only had those 2 sacks. But his tape was real interesting. His RAS score, if I'm not mistaken, incorrect, this might have been the highest RAS we've seen today, 9.54. 40 times 4.7, 20-yard split. No, Latu's might have been higher. Let me look real quick. No, Latu 9.3. Nah, this might be the highest one. 9.54. Shuttle was good. 3-cone was good. Vertical was good. The only thing that was bad was his weight and his bench. But the way he moves and plays, I can understand why, because he's more power forwardish looking too. But he dominated the competition at Western Michigan. And when you play at a lower level, that's what I expect to see. And like what's on the top of his head, where it say eat, that's what he did. What'd you think about him?
I like him, and I was a fan of his, but I did not think he was going to test the way that he did. Like his testing numbers, blew my expectations out of the water. But just as far as on the field, he's a guy. He has a good mix of athleticism and power, and he plays with that relentlessness that you want. He doesn't stop. He can be blocked. That doesn't mean anything. He's going to give you a counter and try to go around you again. And he isn't going to be one of those loose edge defenders or anything like that. I actually think he's a guy that's going to provide a little bit of a little bit of experience rushing from the inside, and then also have that versatility to kick outside. He's kind of a tweener in a way, and he kind of reminded me of from the what's the dude from the Stanford Cardinals, Solomon. What was his
this
name?
year?
No. For a few years ago, he was like the third pick in the draft from the Niners. Solomon Thomas. There we go. Solomon Thomas. Like a off-brand version of Solomon Thomas, like one of those kind of cats. I think he has that athleticism. It doesn't always jump off the screen like a Chop Robinson, but I think that first step I think is really good, especially for a guy who's as heavy as he is, because Chop Robinson, 245, 250. This dude is probably playing at like 270, 275. So that first step, that initial first step quickness, well, it's good for a player of that weight. And, he's another guy, you see him moved all around in order to avoid those double teams. You see him rushing from the inside, rushing from the outside. So he was a guy I'm really intrigued with. And I can't wait to see where he goes because, small school guy. He was actually someone who committed to go to Colorado. And then he changed his mind and went back to Western Michigan. So, he's definitely a fun player, and I'm a big fan of his.
What I have him for him, he was a tight end in high school, which shows his athleticism, elite agility for a defensive end. Runs plays down all over the field. He's a pinball getting through the offensive lineman. So he bounces around offensive linemen while study getting penetration to go make plays in the backfield. He's very good versus the competition in his league at stopping the run, getting rid of and beating guards and tackles. So even when they slid him inside, he had a good job, or he does a good job of getting rid of guards, getting rid of tackles, getting penetration, making tackles in the backfield, running plays down. So he was all over the place at Western Michigan in league play. I think he's a 3-down defensive end because he can play the run, and in his league he can play the run and play the pass. And I think he needs to add to his pass rush bag, like, because just speed rushing and just athletic ability itself won't be enough. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think he just have to expand his bag because he's just been able to out athlete people in Western Michigan's league. And then the fact that he had fists with him too, he necessarily didn't have to be the man. So like, now he's going to have to expand his bag, in which I think he can do that because of the athletic ability and what he has. He'll be able to get a spin move, be able to get a cross chop, be able to convert speed to power and vice versa. He'll be able to, he'll be a great stunt guy.
Yep.
Because that ability to change directions. He'll be a great stunt guy. So I think somebody's going to get a steal out of him in a later round, maybe a third or fourth round, because his athletic ability, his ability to play the run, on top of the fact that he's one of those high motor guys, and he's just not a high motor guy that's just gonna run around and not do nothing. He actually doing something and making progress. So I like this game. I like this tape. I would have loved to see him versus better competition. Maybe if he had went to Colorado, I would have liked to see him play in that league. But from what I saw of him versus Western Michigan, I was pleased with him. And he's gonna make somebody team. I don't think he's gonna be cut. And I think he's gonna be a solid, rotational piece for somebody. Whether it be us or not, who's to say that? But I like Marshawn Kneeland. And if you haven't had a chance to watch some tape on Marshawn Kneeland, at least go type his name in YouTube and go check his highlights out. All right, so those are the 10 for today. What we're gonna do now is me and Chris will collaborate on what let me see. Oh, my bad. What DBs we're gonna do. So we'll have 10 DBs for you next Wednesday at the same time. And we're going to get up out of here, man. So what you do now, if you're going over to Lunch Break Hot Take, make sure you tell them Coach and Chris sent you. And we'll be over there soon, man. I appreciate everybody for coming out. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us. Peace and love. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace.